Okay, so here we go. We're going to do polynomial long division. So the first thing I need to do is identify some vocabulary. Okay, the divisor is what you're dividing by. What's getting divided is called the dividend. And the answer to the division problem is called the quotient. Now you learned all this back in 3rd or 4th grade, but now we're going to extend it to polynomials. We're going to take it up to the Algebra 2 notch. Okay, but I'm going to be using this vocabulary, so make sure you read your notes a few times, definitely before you do the worksheet tonight for homework, and make sure you're very comfortable with, if I'm saying divisor, you need to know what that is. So here's the deal. I need to make a note here. When you want to do division, and I'm going to set this up and then write the note beside it. You put your divisor on the outside, but the dividend has to have every term. And it's only the dividend. So it's not true of the divisor, okay? It's not true of the divisor, and it's not true of the quotient. But the dividend needs every term. So did you notice in 3x to the 4th minus 5x cubed plus 4x minus 6, there was no x squared. So we need to insert when there's a missing term. And do you remember with synthetic, how we did that earlier? So it really parallels that. Okay, now on the sideboard, we looked at 20 divided by 3. We went back to 3rd grade or 4th grade and looked at, well, how do you divide? The same thing is going to be true with polynomials. Here's what you do, though. You're going to look, and it's going to take 2 or 3, and then we're going to do a few extra problems than what are in the notes. Today we're only doing long division. Tomorrow we'll do synthetic division, and then we're going to do something else on the 3rd day. So I asked myself, just x squared, not the other terms and not any of these, but I asked myself, x squared times what is 3x to the 4th? 3x squared. Now I'm going to line it up with the x squareds, okay? And then look back at the sideboard. We then said, okay, what is 3 times 6? 3 times 6 is 18. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to take the divisor times 3x squared. So this is 3x to the 4th minus 9x cubed plus 15x squared. Now can you see why we inserted the 0x squared? There wouldn't have been a like term to combine it with. Okay, now let's go back to the sideboard. We said 3 times 6 was 18, and then what did we do? You subtract. Well, guess what? We're going to subtract the polynomials, but I'm going to show you kind of an easy way to do the subtraction. Instead of trying to subtract and keep track of the signs, you can take the opposite and add. Subtraction is equal to add the opposite. Now 3x to the 4th cancels, and I get 4x cubed minus 15x squared, and then you're adding 0, so we're just going to bring the other 2 terms down, okay? And then you repeat. So I asked myself, x squared times what is 4x cubed? 4x. Now it's a positive, so you need to put a plus sign, and then you multiply. You're going to distribute. So it's 4x cubed minus 12x squared plus 20x. Okay? Now we need to subtract, but to make subtraction easier, we're going to do the opposite and add. So that gives me negative 3x squared minus 16x minus 6. Okay, then I'm going to repeat. X squared times what is negative 3x squared? minus 3. And then you multiply. So that's negative 3x squared plus 9x minus 15. Now you need to subtract. So you take the opposite and add. And I get negative 25x plus 9. Now, I need to show you how you write your final answer. The quotient is 3x squared plus 4x minus 3, and then you add the remainder over the divisor. So if you remember our example on the sideboard that was 20 divided by 3, remember we got 6 and 2/3? Well, if I don't put the plus sign in algebra, that means times. So that's why you've got to remember 6 and 2/3 really means in elementary math 6 plus 2/3. But if I don't put the plus, that means times, and that's not what I meant. Okay? All right, so here we go. We're going to do another one. I'm going to get x squared minus x minus 2 into x cubed plus 3x squared. Notice there's no x, so I need to insert a 0x. Then I'm going to ask myself, x squared times what is x cubed? X. So I'm going to line it up here, and then I'm going to multiply. So that gives me x cubed minus x squared minus 2x. And then I need to subtract, so that's the opposite, and add 4x squared plus 2x, and then you just are subtracting or adding 0, so it's just negative 7. And then x squared times what is 4x squared? 4. So that's 4x squared minus 4x minus 8. And then I take the opposite and add, and I get 6x plus 1. So my answer is x plus 4 plus the remainder, 6x plus 1, over x squared minus x minus 2. Please write it beside the problem. Don't try and do it up by the division bar, okay, because it's too messy. The other question you might wonder is, how do you know when you stop? Like, how did I know to not go again with that 6x?
Because you ran out.
You ran out of the powers, right? Because x squared, you can't multiply x squared times an x to a positive power that's going to give me x to the first, okay? So that's how you know you're done. All right, I want you guys to now attempt example 3 on your own. While you're doing that, I'm going to pass out tonight's worksheet. My TA did not hole punch this one, so I'm going to pass my hole punch around. While you're working on the sideboard in the middle where it says Algebra 2 worksheet, those are the 12 answers to the worksheet tonight. I'm going to go ahead and start this one now. X times what is x cubed? Well, that'll be x squared. So you get x cubed minus 2x squared. I take the opposite and add. So x times what is 7x squared? It'll be 7x. I need to subtract, so I take the opposite and add. I need to subtract, so I take the opposite and add. So my answer is x squared plus 7x plus 7 plus my remainder is 16 over x minus 2. Make sure you have a plus sign between your quotient and the remainder. All right, any questions on that one? If you've made a mistake, can you see where you did? Okay? All right, now, I need you to find either a clean sheet of paper or do this in your warm-up section. We're going to do 2 extra problems, okay? We're going to do 2 extra problems, and I'm going nice and slowly for you so that we can be solid on this. And these are 2 different types. That it's still the long division, but I just want to make sure that, you know, anything funny that comes up, that we can handle this. All right, I'm getting x plus 3 into x cubed plus 0x squared plus x plus 30. All right, I'm going to work this one. X times what is x cubed? That's x squared. So I get x cubed plus 3x squared. You need to subtract, so you take the opposite and add. X times what is negative 3x squared? It's minus 3x. You need to subtract, so you take the opposite and add. And then you need to multiply by 10. When you take the opposite and add, so what's different about this one is I got no remainder. And so how do you write your answer? You're not going to put plus a 0, okay? It's just x squared minus 3x plus 10, okay? That's all you're going to do when there's no remainder. All right, then I have one more we're going to do. And then you'll have the rest of the period to work on this. All right, try this one. While you're working, I'm going to give you a second handout that this is part of tonight's homework. And if you'll just be patient, I'll explain that in a moment, okay? The purpose of this problem was to get you to see that the divisor, you don't need to add a 0x, okay, because then I wrote that on the first part. It said only the dividend did you have to add zeros. Then, if you're working on this one, x squared times what is 8x cubed? It's 8x, right? But when you distribute, I wanted you to see that you have to put like terms with like terms. You can't put 24x underneath an x squared because you can't combine them. Okay, so there were twofold that I wanted you to get from this. Yeah.
When we're showing our work, should we put a 0x squared for that? Or
Here?
yeah, should we put it there? Just to
No,
show
because
or
it's 0. You're adding 0.
leave it.
Yeah. Then I'm going to take the opposite and add, and I get 5x squared plus 12x plus 10. And then this is plus 5, and I get 5x squared minus 15. So I get 12x plus 25. So then my answer is 8x plus 5 plus the remainder, 12x plus 25 over x squared minus 3. All right, any questions at all?